walks in for the challenge, she has a princess crown on and a wand.
You like my crown? It's Anthony Burrell.
So,
Abby's ultimate dance competition, where talent is tested, tiaras tumble, and favorites fall fast. Before there was Dance Mom's chaos, there was AUDC carnage, a dance battlefield where the glitter was sharp, the judges were savage, and even the most promising prodigies were one misstep away from elimination. Abby Lee Miller didn't just bring her signature intensity to this new show. She amped it up, added cash, threw in a scholarship to the Joffrey Ballet School, and watched the drama explode under pressure. Let's be clear, Abby's ultimate dance competition was no casual reality TV spin-off. It was Abby Lee's twisted dance bootcamp, cloaked in a competition format that turned tween dancers into warriors. And with Abby as one of the judges, flanked by the no-nonsense choreographer Richie Jackson and ballet icon Robin Anton, every performance could either skyrocket a dancer to the top or send them home in tears. No pressure, right? From the very first episode, AUDC made one thing clear: this wasn't your average weekly dance recital. This was about legacy. The ultimate prize, $100,000 and a full scholarship to the prestigious Joffrey Ballet School, wasn't just life-changing, it was industry-shaping. Winning meant national exposure, credibility in elite dance circles, and, in Abby's mind, the kind of success that only her approval could bring. For many of these young dancers, this was their big break. They weren't just dancing for the judges. They were dancing for every casting director, talent agent, and choreographer watching from home. And let's not forget the moms, whose own dance dreams sometimes eclipsed their daughters' nerves on stage. And then there was Abby's approval. For dancers raised on Dance Moms, the idea of getting a gold star from Abby Lee Miller wasn't just desirable, it was essential. Her validation could open doors. Her criticism could slam them shut. But Abby doesn't hand out compliments. She throws down ultimatums, mocks performances with surgical precision, and delivers rejections like a Broadway villain with a vendetta, which made every episode a nerve-shredding journey. Nobody was safe. Not even the Golden Children. The show followed a weekly format, with themes designed to test every dancer's technical ability, versatility, and stage presence. But don't let the glitter fool you. This format was ruthless. Each week brought a new challenge, a choreography round, and a solo or duet. The judges critiqued everything: lines, emotion, costume, attitude, even facial expressions. A single wrong head tilt? Too much lip syncing? Abby would call you out before your toe could point again. After each performance, the bottom three dancers faced the ultimate humiliation: the dance-off. A solo on the spot, designed to prove whether they were worthy of another week in the competition. No second takes. No edits. Just raw nerves, spotlight, and Abby's glare. The eliminations came hard and fast. Unlike Dance Moms, where a bad week could be chalked up to Abby's mood, AUDC had no buffer. No pyramid. No redemption arc. One week you were a standout. The next, you were packing your dance bag. And it wasn't always about the dancing. Oh no. AUDC was also about performance. Personality. Star power, as Abby put it, that intangible spark that separated a great technician from a true performer. If you didn't have that it factor, you were toast. Let's talk about the heartbreak. The fan favorites who crashed and burned under the weight of the pressure cooker. Because if you thought being popular with viewers was enough to save you, think again. In Abby's world, confidence borders on cocky, and talent means nothing without obedience. Dancers who were beloved by fans, those with charisma, charm, and energy, sometimes found themselves at the bottom for reasons that felt arbitrary. One wrong outfit, one missed beat, one bad attitude, gone. And Abby could turn on a dime. A dancer she praised one week might be at the bottom the next, and vice versa. It kept contestants and viewers on edge. No one ever felt safe. Case in point, dancers like Amanda, who walked into the competition with flawless technique and a radiant smile. Early frontrunner. Judges' darling. Abby approved. But one fumble? One performance that didn't sell the story? Suddenly she was in the bottom, being told she lacked versatility. Or let's not forget Zach, the only boy in the competition, who started out as a dark horse and quickly gained traction as a fierce soloist. He brought lyrical elegance, athletic precision, and a clean aesthetic, but the judges kept pushing for more passion, more risk, and more presence. It didn't matter how strong his turns were. If Abby didn't feel the dance, it didn't count. Oh, Asia Monet Ray, the pint-sized powerhouse with attitude for days and technique to back it up. She entered late into the competition and shook things up instantly. Abby was obsessed. Richie was skeptical. Robin was charmed. But the other dancers? Shook. Asia was unpredictable. She stole the spotlight, not always with grace, and drew a line between professionalism and showmanship that had everyone divided. Because AUDC was designed to shake up the rankings. It wanted you to root for someone, then gasp when they were cut.
Legs,
it
turns, and
thrived on
jumps.
the tension,
And within that
the
combination,
unpredictability, the slow realization
Abby
that
walks
being
in
the
for
best
the challenge.
dancer didn't
She has
always
a
mean
princess
surviving
crown on
the
and a wand.
Let's be honest. AUDC wasn't just a dance competition. It was dance moms in disguise with a stage instead of a studio and a set of fresh moms with just as much fire. The parental drama was next level, with moms coaching from the wings, crying in interviews, and throwing shade with the same intensity Abby threw corrections. You had moms who were sweet and supportive, until elimination time. Moms who bragged about their kids' training. Moms who sabotaged others backstage. Moms who clapped when rivals stumbled. It was cutthroat, intense, and sometimes more dramatic than the dancing itself. But that's what made AUDC irresistible. It wasn't just about talent. It was about survival. How much pressure could a kid take? How hard could they push themselves before cracking? How well could they handle criticism from the most intimidating woman in reality TV? And perhaps most importantly, how quickly could they bounce back after a fall? Because no matter how talented you were, how many medals you'd won, or how many standing ovations you'd gotten at your local competition, nothing prepared these dancers for Abby's ultimate dance competition. It was brutal. It was unpredictable. And it made for absolutely legendary TV. From the very first episode of Abby's ultimate dance competition, Madison stood out, and not just because of her stage presence. The girl had legs for
turns,
days,
and jumps.
a ballet
And within
background
that combination,
that screamed Joffrey ready, and the kind of
Abby
refined
walks
control
in
that
for the
made
challenge.
even Abby raise
She has a
an eyebrow
princess
in
crown
approval.
on and a wand.
She wasn't just good, she was textbook good. Clean lines, stunning flexibility, and a core so strong you could practically feel the hours of training behind every movement. When she hit a pose, it was like watching a sculpture come to life. No wonder the judges put her at the top early on. Abby loved the technique, Richie admired her commitment, and Robin saw potential in her polish. But with that kind of promise comes pressure. And for Madison, the spotlight quickly became a double-edged sword. Despite being one of the strongest technical dancers in the competition, Madison sometimes faded into the background, not because of her ability, but because of something far more frustrating. She wasn't loud enough. Abby wanted big personalities. Robin wanted passion. Richie wanted that something extra. Madison, by comparison, was calm, controlled, internal. She let her dancing speak for itself, which, in a competition filled with larger-than-life performers, sometimes left her overshadowed. Even her mom, Erin, felt the pressure. She frequently pointed out that Madison wasn't getting enough credit, that other dancers were being celebrated for flash, not fundamentals. And viewers agreed. Online buzz was already growing. Was Madison being overlooked? Was she too refined for reality TV?
Legs, turns, and jumps. And within that combination,
she wasn't throwing tantrums or
Abby
flipping
walks
her hair
in for the
between
challenge.
takes.
She has a
She just
princess
wanted to
crown
dance.
on and a wand.
And in Abby's pressure cooker of a competition, that wasn't always enough. As the weeks went on, something shifted. Madison started second-guessing herself. The critiques became more personal. Judges wanted emotion. They wanted storytelling. They wanted her to feel the dance, not just perform it. And suddenly, all that technical perfection started to feel fragile. Not because Madison wasn't capable, but because she was holding back. Whether it was nerves, the relentless pressure, or just feeling unseen, Madison started to question whether her best was even good enough. It all came to a head right before the Fairytale challenge, a themed week tailor-made for a ballerina like Madison. This was her moment, right? A week about fantasy, elegance, storytelling? She should have soared. But instead, she stumbled. The week before the Fairytale challenge, Madison delivered a performance that left the judges lukewarm. The technique was there, as always. But the spark? The emotional connection? It just didn't land. Robin commented that she wanted to see more soul. Abby bluntly questioned whether Madison had plateaued. It was crushing. Here was a dancer who had done everything right. Every extension hit, every pirouette tight, and yet it wasn't enough. The whispers began. Was Madison fading? Was she too one-note? The worst part? You could see the doubt creep in. Madison, who once danced with serene confidence, suddenly looked unsure. Her smiles were tighter. Her movements, while still clean, had a hesitation that hadn't been there before. She was slipping, not in skill, but in spirit. And all of this happened right before the most magical week of the season. The setup was poetic. After a stumble, Madison was handed a fairytale-themed solo, a routine meant to showcase elegance, innocence, and a happily ever-after fantasy. It was her chance at redemption. Her chance to remind the judges why they loved her. Her chance to bring the emotion they'd been begging for. But the pressure was intense. She was dancing not just for the judges, but for herself, for her confidence, for her place in the competition. And viewers were divided. Some believed she was being unfairly overlooked, punished for her quiet strength in a show built for flashier personalities. Others wondered if she was simply cracking under the weight of expectation. Either way, one thing was certain: Madison's Fairytale week wasn't just another challenge. It was a turning point. Would she bounce back and rise like the princess she was meant to portray? Or would the weight of missed moments and near misses finally pull her under? The theme of the week? Fairy tales. But this wasn't about pretty twirls and princess smiles. This was Abby's version of a fairy tale, which meant whimsy wrapped in wicked pressure. The dancers weren't just expected to portray a character. They had to become it. Embody the narrative. Sell the fantasy. This was a challenge that fused technique with storytelling, one of the most difficult balances a dancer can be asked to strike. You had to give the audience grace and grit, lines and layers, pirouettes and pathos. It wasn't just about being pretty, it was about being powerful. And for Abby, that meant no room for blank faces or pretty for pretty sake movement. She didn't want a ballerina in a costume. She wanted a transformation, drama, emotion, a character arc, told entirely through movement. Each dancer was assigned a fairy tale-inspired solo with a twist. This wasn't Disney on Ice. The solos were darker, more theatrical, and more interpretive than anyone expected. Some were given villain roles. Others were sad heroines. Even the princess types had to show emotional depth, pain, longing, and yes, they still had to nail their technique. In short, this wasn't just a dance challenge. It was an artistry challenge. And for dancers like Madison, who were used to letting the movement speak for itself, this week required digging deeper into emotion, expression, vulnerability. Madison entered the challenge already rattled. The week before had bruised her confidence, and the judges were clearly questioning whether she could evolve. Could she step out of the ballerina box and become a storyteller? For Madison, this was the most creatively demanding challenge of the season. Not because she lacked skill, she had that in spades, but because it required her to strip away some of that careful perfectionism and replace it with rawness, grit, feeling. And that was hard for her. Not just as a dancer, but as a person. She had spent years perfecting her lines, her technique,
legs, turns, and
her
jumps.
transitions.
And within that combination,
she was a product of elite training. But now,
Abby walks in for the challenge. She has a
Be
princess
messy.
crown on
Be human.
and a wand.
And that vulnerability didn't come naturally. To make matters worse, Abby's critique the week prior was still lingering in the air. I need to feel something when you dance. That's a heavy burden to carry into a solo that requires you to personify a fairy tale character on the verge of emotional collapse. Madison's solo, inspired by a cursed princess motif, was haunting and melancholy, a slow, lyrical piece that begged for nuance. The choreography was intentionally fluid but emotionally charged. Every arabesque, Every contraction, every reach of the arm had to mean something. And in a room full of big personalities and flashy performers, hello Asia, Madison was the calm before the storm. A dancer who could either rise by embracing subtlety or crumble under the demand to be more. This challenge wasn't just another chance
legs,
to
turns,
prove
and
herself.
jumps, and within
It was her
that combination,
chance to reclaim her status as a frontrunner.
Abby walked
show
in
that
for
she
the
could
challenge.
evolve.
She has a
To
princess
convince the
crown on
judges
and a
and maybe
wand.
even herself that she could be more than just technically beautiful.